Now we're going to talk about the Cognitive Conceptualization Diagram, or CCD, which you'll find in your course manual. This diagram allows you to take a great deal of information that you learn about a client and to figure out what are the most important cognitions and behaviors to focus on. Let's take a look at the diagram now. Here's the whole diagram, but first I'd like us to focus just on the bottom half. You'll see 3 examples of the simplified cognitive model, plus an extra box for the meaning of the automatic thoughts. You'll fill in this diagram between sessions to help you plan treatment. You wouldn't ordinarily show a diagram like this to a client because it's too complex, though you would go over parts of the conceptualization verbally and through drawing simpler diagrams for the client. You'll find out more about filling out the CCD in later courses, but for now, it's important to fill one out about yourself. If you haven't already, find a blank copy of the Cognitive Conceptualization Diagram in the course manual. If this is the first time that you've ever done a CCD, you might have a little bit of difficulty with it, but that's what the forum is for. Please ask lots of questions and use a pencil. You may very well do some erasing. Here are the steps. Number 1. Start at the bottom. You'll see there are 3 places to fill in the cognitive model. Start with the emotion or behavior box under situation number 1. Think of a time when you were significantly upset or engaged in an unhelpful behavior. Don't think of a time when your reaction was unusual for you. You want to identify a reaction that is quite typical of you. Okay, now go ahead and fill in the relevant box or boxes. Step 2. Now fill in the situation and your automatic thoughts. Again, make sure that your automatic thoughts are typical. You should be able to say with confidence, "This is what I usually think in this kind of situation." If not, erase what you've already filled in and start again. The CCD is only useful to the degree that you identify typical automatic thoughts and reactions. Step 3. Now ask yourself the downward arrow question. If my automatic thoughts were true, what would that mean about me? Fill in the meaning of the automatic thought box. Step 4. Repeat this process under situation number 2 and situation number 3. Try to think of situations that are quite typical for you, but where the themes are different, if indeed there are different themes. In other words, are there situations in which you typically feel ineffective or helpless in some way, unlovable, worthless? If you have more than one theme, capture it using one of the situations. Step 5. Now look at the meaning of the automatic thought boxes. Note the arrow between it and the core belief box at the top. Fill in the core belief box. Step 6. Next, look at the behavior boxes at the bottom of the diagram. Do these actions or inactions reflect a typical pattern of unhelpful behavior? If so, write that behavior or those behaviors in the coping strategies box. Also, think to yourself, do you engage in other patterns of unhelpful behavior? If they're related to the situations on the worksheet, write those in the coping strategies box too. If they're not, then draw yourself a situation number 4, starting with that behavior in the bottom box. Step 7. Now let's figure out your assumptions. Remember, it's generally something like the following. If I do blank, that is, if I do my coping strategy, then I'll be okay. But if I don't, my core belief will come true or be evident. Fill in your assumptions in the assumption box. Step 8. Finally, can you think of any experiences through your lifetime that can help you understand why you have developed this belief? Fill in the top box. Have you finished the CCD? Please don't go on in the course until you have finished filling one out about yourself. It's a very important learning step. Don't worry if it's difficult now, After you've finished filling out about 5 CCDs on yourself and then on your clients, it will become so much clearer. For now, post any questions you have on the forum. Finally, here's an overview of how you'll use the CCD to plan treatment. At the beginning of therapy with clients, you'll pretty much be sticking to the bottom of the diagram. That is, identifying situations in which clients have certain distorted or unhelpful automatic thoughts that then lead to an unhelpful reaction. You'll be helping clients problem solve at the situation level. You might be helping them evaluate and respond to their automatic thoughts. You might be teaching them different new behaviors. You might be teaching them emotional regulation skills. Particularly if they're anxiety patients, you may be teaching them skills to quiet the arousal in their bodies. Toward the middle of treatment, you'll focus more on the top of the diagram. We wish we could focus on core beliefs toward the top of the diagram from the very beginning of treatment. But usually, we have to wait until the client has developed some trust in us and until they really get it, that just because they think something doesn't necessarily mean that it's true. That's why usually we need to wait until the middle of treatment, until we've satisfied those 2 conditions. If we could help clients evaluate and respond to their core beliefs at the very beginning of treatment, it would be ideal, because we would hypothesize then that they would perceive situations in a different way. They would no longer be perceiving them in light of the core belief. They would be able to see situations and themselves, other people, and the world more realistically. But generally, we have to wait a bit before we can accomplish that in treatment. Even though we don't work directly on helping clients change their core beliefs at the beginning of treatment, we work indirectly. So, for example, a depressed client is feeling very incompetent and ineffective. One of the things that we might do is to have him keep a credit list, a list of all of the things that he does every day that are even a little bit difficult, but he does them anyway. We show clients that we don't believe that they're unlovable, even though they may feel that way, by our warm greetings and through our therapeutic relationship with the client. And there's another reason that we tend not to address core beliefs early in treatment, at least not directly. Once we begin to evaluate core beliefs, we are really questioning the client's sense of self, and that's very uncomfortable for them. So at the beginning of treatment, we work indirectly at the core belief and save the direct work for a little bit later on. You'll learn more about how to use the CCD to plan treatment for various disorders in later courses. Here's another exercise for you. I'd like you to fill out a CCD, or partially fill one out, on a fictional character. To do this, you'll need to reread a book or watch a movie you've already viewed. Pick one in which a character is pretty emotional. Start at the bottom of the diagram. You should easily be able to fill out the situation and behavior boxes. If the character doesn't directly express his automatic thoughts and it's not obvious what his emotions are, you will need to hypothesize. Just make sure to put a question mark next to each hypothesis. Then pretend you can ask the character, if this automatic thought were true, what would this mean about you? Put your hypothesis in the core belief box with a question mark and try to fill in the rest of the diagram. Which character from which book or movie did you pick? Maybe you'll inspire someone else to use the same one. What do you think the character's core beliefs, assumptions, and coping strategies are? Also, post any questions you have to the forum.